very first events that we videotaped was back in November of 1999 in Dayton, Ohio, when the Buckeye Model A Ford put on another swap meet and car show at Peffrey Ford. You'll see it wasn't just Fords that they had there.
Car's kind of unique, I guess. It's you don't see many of them around. It's a 28 Model T Speedster, built out of 28 frame wheels. The body is a hand-built body. The hood, radiator is 26, 27. The seats are out of a 14 Roadster. Gas tanks out of a 14 Roadster. The unique thing about this, it still has a Model T engine in it. That head's it's a Waukesha-Richards head. They're manufactured by the company that made the Waukesha gas industrial engine. The Magneta is a Bosch Magneta off of a tractor. It was converted with a drive to fit this engine. And like I say, the carburetor is a Model B off of a 32 Ford Model B. There's no dipstick on this car, and that's how you check the oil. A lot of these farm tractors, earlier stages, especially the John Deere's were the same type. You just opened the top petcock. Oil run out of there, you was fine, you know it was full of oil. If it didn't, if you was in doubt how low it was, you'd open the bottom, and if you noted the bottom and there was no oil, you knew you needed a lot of oil. It's kind of hard to drive because your natural instinct to a car, you push the clutch down, you stop. Well, not with this thing. You push the clutch down and you're in low gear. Okay, well, like I said, the first pedal is your clutch. It says clutch, it says C. That's not really a clutch. I guess it is in a sense. It's just when you got to pull it in the neutral position, which the brake does that. And then to go, you push down on it. After you get going, you pull up on it. And then the center one is reversed. To back up, you got to hold the first one, the first pedal to your left, in a neutral position and press on the reverse to back up. And then the third brake is your pedal, is a brake pedal, which actually is not a brake, a mechanical brake to the wheel. It's a brake to the engine. It slows the engine down. It's in the transmission itself.
And the brake to the wheel is out there.
Yes, yes. The only thing, it's you only have the two-wheel mechanical brakes, and that's really a problem getting it stopped. And then, of course, with the original throttle was here in your controls in your steering column. With American Antique Racing Association, you have to have a foot throttle also. The car I raced at dirt tracks, fairground tracks, that car runs about 55, 60 mile an hour in the races usually. It will run as maximum of probably about 70 mile an hour. Had a lot of fun with this car. I've had it about 4 years. People seem to like it regardless of where I go with it, and a lot of people have asked me to bring it to different places, you know, and it needs some touch-up work on here and there, but you can't do everything.
Anything you want to know about that 29 Ford fire truck? Yeah. It was originally purchased from Eaton, Ohio in 1915. The body started out as a 1915 chain drive Rio. It was in service from 15 until 1938. The New Lebanon Fire Department needed a new fire truck. They didn't have the money to buy a brand new one. They went to the adjoining town, which was Eaton, offered to buy their 1915 chain drive Rio. It was pretty outdated. It was about 20-some years old. So the town of New Lebanon bought it. They also bought a 1929 Ford ice truck. They threw the ice truck body and all that stuff away, transferred over the chain drive Rio body to there. That's why if you look in front of the rear tires, there's a little extra room. That was for the chain drive. Underneath the words New Lebanon, it'll say Eaton, Ohio. You can see where it's been painted over. This fire truck was used by the New Lebanon Fire Department from 1938 until 1962. It's not a pumper, it's a hose truck. If you look in the back, there's rollers where the hoses and things would have been pulled to come out. This is not a pumper. So you had to have either another truck over here with a pump on it, or there's such a thing called a mud pump that would be hauled in the back, and 4 firemen would pull it out, flop one into the hose in a pond or a stream, fire up the gasoline engine. It would pump it here. This is called a 2-inch hard line, and goes into a 1-inch red booster line up there. So you got a limited amount of pressure. So you had to park this thing fairly close to a fire. If you notice the other side, the paint's not as good. It got parked too close to a warm fire, and it kind of cooked the paint. In its later years, this fire truck was used as a grass rig to haul the firemen out to the grass fires, so they didn't have to take their brand new trucks off the road. This thing was so long, when they put it in the firehouse, it would not fit in. So they rigged up the back of it so it would fold up, and they could back it in, pick up that extra foot.
Was this for people to hold on to?
Yes, that stood on the back. They would hold on to that because there was a driver, a passenger, and 2 men stood on the back. And they went racing to a fire about 35 miles an hour. So in '62 it was retired. Then it was basically just used for parades and things. Our Model A Club bought it from them in 1971 for the grand sum of $1,500. But we just plan to maintain it. We don't want to restore it. We just want to keep it up as it is. And we've done some little knicky-knack things to it to keep it up and running. We just want to have fun with it and enjoy it. And that's what it's here for. We brought it today for people to look at and enjoy and reminisce and touch. I mean, you're not going to hurt it. If a kid sits on it or whatever, you're not going to hurt a thing.
Okay, this is a 28 Model A Sport Coupe. It was purchased about 5 years ago from a fellow in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I drive it and keep it running. See, the 28 is the first year for the Model A's. 27 was the last year for the T's. There are really no wires, as we know wires, but they're just copper strips. 4-cylinder, 6-volt system. Oh, they require some maintenance to keep them going like an average car, and you have to look for parts to keep them going. Well, if they're a short trip, we usually take 2 people if we're not going very far, because it does get windy.
Sure.
Setting it out in the open. That's a step. Yeah, there's 2 steps. There's one on the lower and one up on the fender to get into the seat. Yeah, it does blow. Well, it's a fun car. Nice hobby to be in.
I bought it about 3-4 years ago, and it has the original key and the guy's key tag. In 1931, when this car was new, a standard 2-door was about $475 or so, and this car was $8 1/4. And up underneath this whole top, it's all wood, and the top is cloth. And when I got it, first time it rained, it leaked. Get under the hood, you can see that it's the original stuff. The nice thing about these engines is they're real basic and they're real simple. So the gas comes out of the gas tank, through the hose, and into the carburetor by gravity, so there's no fuel pump. And as you can see, the wires probably came with the car. They're 60 years old. They don't wear out. They're solid copper straps, and if you grab onto them, you know you did it. It's easy to think, well, I can just do this and get away with it one time. And what happens is, as you're pushing down, it kicks back and comes up this way, and then it comes right around and breaks your wrist and breaks your arm off right here, because they'll kick hard.
Start right up.
I found back roads to everywhere. Sometimes it takes a little longer, but it doesn't matter.
This car is an original Columbus car. It was bought by a minister in the fall of '39 from Columbus Motor Car. And mechanically, it's all original. All the sheet metal and all the chrome on it is original. All this upholstery and everything's original. Everything else is original. The door sills are. In '41, they came out with another model, Cadillac, did away with this, and of course the price went up. And Cadillac only used this body for 2 years, because they still made the Cadillac 62 in '40, which used the same body. And then in '61, the Cadillac 62 used this body, and that was the end. They just used it for 2 years, and that was the end. So mechanical parts are easy to get. When you start getting into trim parts, then you got a problem. So I learned a lot about the car, taking it apart and scraping it off and so forth.
Look at that. Oh, it's a 57 Chevy 210 4-door sedan. Now it's an automobile that they would buy a fire chief, any city. I put it back together with the 1950 series red light on top of it, and also the motorized siren. Underneath the hood is the old Blue Flame 6-cylinder engine with a Power Glide transmission behind it. There's the red light. I just tried to dress this one up a little bit when we redid it as a fire chief's car, because you don't see this kind of equipment running around on the streets anymore. So I use it to parade with my grandkids, and we turn a lot of heads. And I do use a CB radio on it when I'm out there on the road, just to be able to talk to the people that are going by and saying, wow. So we do carry on some conversation when we're going back and forth to a meet, and have a lot of fun, because that's what it's all about.
Okay, well, this is my 1930 Model A Roadster Deluxe. I bought this car about 2 years ago. It was pretty well restored when I got it. It used to be a show car, and I just thoroughly enjoy it, and I get a lot of nice compliments on when I'm driving it down the road, that it's a very enjoyable hobby that we have. And the Dayton Model A Club, which has probably already been told several times, is a very active club. And whenever you have any problem with your car at all, you always have more help than you want. You know, my grandchildren just love to take rides in it, and they usually prefer the rumble seat. But I primarily drive it. I just enjoy driving the car.
Right after the Dayton swap meet, we ran into a gentleman named Jim Henry, who had a great 1941 Ford he showed us.
This one here is 1941 Ford. I've had this car probably about 7 or 8 years. I had one when I was 20 years old. By the way, my name is Jim Henry. It's a Ford Deluxe that has a V8, 100 horsepower, flathead they call them. It has hydraulic brakes, 3-speed transmission. It was used by the Highway Patrol and all the law enforcement in those days, because it was the fastest car on the road at the time. I mean, fast getaway. Now, top speed on the highway, you take the big Packards and so forth, then you're talking with some endurance there. But this car was well liked by the law enforcement. Isn't this beautiful? The material back in those days. Now, here's another feature about this car. Most of your cars up to that year had the running board. You could stand on here and all the guys hanging on the running board, 8 or 10 of them driving down the road, you know. But now this eliminated that, so they had to get inside. So they put the running board inside. Yeah, get a good view of that dash. I think it's beautiful. Yeah. Ford was one of the first that I can recall. This is a lock steering wheel. This is strong, strong, strong. It was a hard car to steal. That was a real trademark for Ford, that round pedal like that. Probably one of the best engines ever built, these little flatheads. This car will run well over 100 miles an hour. The cars of today has tried to get back to a degree. In fact, we call the cars, I think, back a few years ago, bubble cars, because that's the only way you get room. You're right back to the same way now. Look at the room you have in this car. And this car is not, as you can see, it doesn't look real big and giant. But look at the room. You can haul 6 people in this car, no problem.